Lesson 3.1 Overview of Safety Standards. Now that you understand hazardous energy and how it works, let's talk about something just as important: standards and compliance. Because lockout tagout is not just best practice. In many industries, it's a legal requirement. One of the most widely recognized standards comes from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, commonly known as OSHA. OSHA requires employers to establish and enforce procedures for controlling hazardous energy. This includes developing a formal lockout tagout program, training employees, and ensuring proper use of locks and tags. But OSHA is not only reference. Around the world, different countries and industries follow similar principles. Whether it is international standards, local regulations, or company-specific policies, the details may vary, but the core idea is always the same. Identify the energy, isolate, control it, verify it. That's the universal language of safety. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Standards are not written to make your job harder. They are written based on real incidents, real failures where people got hurt. So when you follow these standards, you're not just complying with rules. You are applying lessons learned from past mistakes. And that's what makes your workplace safer. Lesson 3.2 Employer versus employee responsibilities. Safety is never a one-sided responsibility. For lockout, tagout to work effectively, both employers and employees must play their part. Let's start with the employer. The employer is responsible for creating a safe working environment. That includes developing a clear LOTO program, providing the right equipment, and ensuring proper training is carried out. They must also ensure the procedures are documented, accessible, and consistently enforced. In short, the employer builds the system. Now let's talk about employees. Employees, especially authorized personnel, are responsible for following the procedures exactly as designed. This means applying locks and tags correctly, verifying isolation, and never taking shortcuts. Affected employees must also respect the system. They must never remove locks, ignore tags, or attempt to restart equipment under LOTO. Here's the reality. Even the best system will fail if people don't follow it. And even the most disciplined workers will struggle if the system is purely designed. That's why safety is a shared responsibility. When both sides do their part, LOTO becomes effective. When either side fails, the risk increases. Minimum requirements for a LOTO program. So what does a proper lockout tagout program actually looks like? At the minimum, there are several key elements that every effective LOTO program must include. First, written procedure. Every piece of equipment should have a clear step-by-step procedure for shutdown, isolation, locking, and verification. Second, training. Employees must understand not just what to do, but why it matters. Training should be role-specific. What authorized employees need to know is different from what affected employees need. Third, proper devices. Locks, tags, hats, lock boxes, all must be standardized, durable, and clearly identifiable. Fourth, periodic inspections. LOTO procedures should be reviewed regularly to ensure they are still effective and being followed correctly. And fifth, enforcement. Rules only work if they are applied consistently. If people can bypass procedures without consequences, the system breaks down. Here's the key takeaway. A LOTO program is not just a document. It's a system that combines procedures, people, tools, and discipline. Remove one element and the entire system becomes weak. Lesson 3.4 Documentation and Record Keeping. Let's talk about something that many people overlook: documentation. At first glance, it may seem like paperwork, but in reality, documentation is proof. Proof that procedures exist, proof that training was conducted, proof that safety measures were followed. And when something goes wrong, that proof becomes critical. Good documentation includes written LOTO procedures for equipment, training records for employees, inspection and audit reports, incident reports, and corrective actions. These records serve two important purposes. First, they help to improve safety. By reviewing past records, you can identify patterns, gaps, and areas for improvement. Second, they provide legal protection. In the event of an incident, documentation shows that the organization took reasonable steps to ensure safety. Without it, it becomes very difficult to defend your process. Now, here's the key mindset shift. Don't treat documentation as a burden. Treat it as part of your safety system. Because if it's not documented, it's very hard to prove it was ever done.